I'm Devorah Wallen, and I'd like to share my Tea for Two, my Torah thought, for 2 minutes more or less. This week's Torah portion is Vayeishev, which means, and he dwelled, referring to Jacob, who finally was able to dwell in the land of Canaan after all his challenging episodes, fleeing from Esav, working for Lavan, fighting the angel, and more. This week's portion is jam-packed, as well as the time of the Jewish year. The month of Kislev is laden with many Hasidic holidays and Hanukkah, and has no days of mourning or fast days. Yet its events are hardly considered joyous in a straightforward way. The common thread I have observed in all of these is the concept of the advantage of the light that comes from tests, struggle, and strife. Last week we spoke about the struggle between Jacob and the angel. Yaakov was named Yisrael, which means he was able to strive with the divine and human beings, and he prevailed. Although there's nothing in the verse that said he actually succeeded, commentators say, by his staying in the fight to the end, he was able to prevail and received the blessing from the angel. There's a Kabbalistic concept based on the verse from Ecclesiastes that says, V'ri'isi ani sheyesh yisoran lechochma mina sichlus ki yisoran ha'or mina choshech. I found that wisdom is superior to folly as light is superior to darkness. Most English editions translate it like that. The true translation is, there's an advantage of light that comes from the darkness, min hachoshech. From this we learn again that the struggle is what brings the greater light. From the challenges and the tests themselves, there's a greater light and greater accomplishment. This month exemplifies this. For instance, the Hasidic holiday of Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Yud Daled Kislev, Yud Tes Kislev, and Hanukkah are all days of great joy, but each one is connected with a challenging element that preceded the celebration. The holidays didn't come about with smooth sailing. Yud Daled Kislev is the anniversary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rebbitzin, but they were married during a time of challenges in communist Russia, and at that time, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's parents were in an entirely distant place and had to celebrate without the couple. This bittersweet long-distance celebration is somewhat reminiscent of many of the joyous events in the last 2 years that we've had at a distance. Rosh Chodesh Kislev commemorates the day that the Lubavitcher Rebbe finally went home after having a heart attack on Shmini Atzeres in 1977, several weeks before. That day has been designated as a day of joy and celebrations, yet it also had to come through a painful ordeal preceding it. Yud Tes Kislev is the day that the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, was released from prison after being charged with subversion by teaching and disseminating Torah. Again, we celebrate an event that comes after a painful trial. Hanukkah was the victory of few against the many, the weak against the strong, all disadvantages. Yet, we stayed in the war and prevailed against the odds and regained access to clean out the Holy Temple and rededicate it. Because of our undying efforts, we were worthy of the miracle of the oil that lasted for 8 days. How do these all connect with our Torah portion? Firstly, Yaakov's Vayeishev, his dwelling peacefully, could only have occurred after his tests. Similarly, Yosef was tested several times in our portion, thrown into a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery, and more because his brothers were envious of his colorful coat. You might wonder why Jacob gave this special coat to him. Why wasn't he more careful to prevent the jealousy of his other sons? Commentators claim that Yosef needed the coat as a self-esteem builder. Yosef would face many more tests than his brothers did and would need the reassurance. Rashi says Yosef was viceroy of Egypt and was captured among non-Jews, and nevertheless he remained righteous. We see a fundamental thread this month and in our portion. There's a greater benefit, growth, and intensity after a trial. As the Ethics of the Fathers says, commensurate with the painstaking effort is the reward. May the month of Kislev and the lights of Hanukkah warm us to one another and illuminate the world, dispelling the darkness of the exile.